Hi, I'm Tom Landon, Director of Educational Innovation here at Blue Ridge PBS. And at the Echo Channel, we strive to acquire content from people with stories to tell from the community. Dexter Shaffer is a junior at Patrick Henry High School in Roanoke who hopes one day to be a writer and director of films. And he reached out to see if we'd be interested in airing and sharing a video he produced about a fixture in southwest Roanoke's Grandin Village, Mr. James Tarpley, who passed away a few years ago. James was a fascinating person. Born in Southside, Virginia, his family tree is steeped in the remnants of slavery and sharecropping. He's a Korean War veteran. I first met him about 20 years ago, and he was a real fixture in the neighborhood. Newspaper stories were written about him during his life, and after his death, 2 memorials appeared in the neighborhood in his honor, including a sculpture by renowned sculptor Betty Branch and a painting of James peering out from a prominent corner, seemingly keeping an eye on things. But James was also a complicated man, and there are some who don't necessarily share the community's love and don't feel that comfortable expressing that. While he was kind to my family, I also did witness a prickly side to James that made some people uncomfortable. We're happy to share this video, which includes both tributes to his kindness and memories that are less pleasant. If you're a producer who'd like to share stories with Blue Ridge PBS Echo, please reach out to me at tlandon@blueridgepbs.org. Finally, the views expressed in this video do not necessarily express those of Blue Ridge PBS or Blue Ridge PBS Echo. Enjoy.
What is your name?
Wayne Shorter.
Wayne Charter? Okay, nice to meet you. So, what can you tell me about James Tarpley?
Well, Mr. James Tarpley, I would say that's my hero.
The Grandin Village is a mixed-use urban village located in southwest Roanoke, Virginia. The village is home to many people of all ages, races, and backgrounds. One thing many of these people have in common is a remembrance of James Tarpley, who was coined as the Grandin Angel. Tarpley passed away in 2019. However, he has clearly not been forgotten among Grandin citizens for the impact he had on the village.
When I moved here, I live next door to James Park. And somehow I'm a problem to my rent. And this man paid my rent almost for 5 years. Nobody know that.
5 years.
Nobody know that. Mr. James. To me, what a best human being we have. And everybody in America and everywhere in the world could be like that.
He was a wonderful man. Like, you could see him. Sometimes when I'm walking home, like up past the painting on the side of the road, I'll just like, it kind of startles me because like, I think, there he is. And then it hits you that he's not here anymore.
You know, that little park, both my kids went there as little kids. So, you know, it's called Tarpley Park. And pretty much for the entire time that they went there, he was always sitting outside of the park. And so we would always greet him very nicely. I appreciated the park that was available. I just felt like he didn't respond to me the way I greeted him, you know. I felt like I was very friendly towards him, but he didn't seem to really like me. How I saw him was not how maybe Roanoke saw him, or I guess the people maybe in this neighborhood. I haven't really had any conversation with anyone about this guy. So I haven't told my friends like, oh, he was always so mean to me when I would go to the park, just because I felt like, oh, he was so well liked in the community. That's why they were doing all, you know, because nobody talks about someone when they're alive anyways. It's really after they die. And then when I saw the way that people responded, I was less likely to say anything like that, obviously, about someone who's died.
Right.
My name is Gracie Copplestone, and I work for a software company. I first met James Tarpley when I was probably 12 years old, and every time I saw him, he would give me $1, which was great. I racked up a lot of dollars from him over the years.
My kids were little when we moved to this neighborhood, so we would go down to the park and go to Pops. And he was just always, you know, 7-Eleven. He was always there wanting to have a conversation. about the weather, but usually not about the weather.
Yeah.
He just wanted to know how everyone was doing. It wasn't like a how are you and keep walking. He wanted to really know how you were.
My husband is actually African, and it's very obvious that he's African because he has a very African accent, and he was usually the one who would go to the playground with my son. And later, after my son was older and I found out like there's no love between Africans and African Americans for some reason. And so later when my daughter, who is 8 years younger than my son, was going to that park, those exact same ages from the time she was 1 to the time she was 4, I always wondered, because now I had this newfound knowledge, that if the reason he didn't like us is because he was African American and my husband was African.
I'm Anna Robertson, and I'm retired.
Awesome. What can you tell us about James Tarpley?
I first met James when I was 18 years old. I was living in Richmond, and I come to the neighborhood to visit my mom and stopped at the 7-Eleven on Grandin. I had the hood of my car open to top off the oil, and James came over to ask if he could help. 5 years later, I was working at that same 7-Eleven, and that's when I really got to know him. He would hang out there daily, scratching lottery tickets and keeping an eye on the store. If I was ever stuck there working by myself after dark, he would be my security guard and hang out all night. In 2005, I was telling him my daydream about opening an ice cream shop in the neighborhood, and I was describing what I wanted it to be. And at the time, the building that is now On the Rise Bakery was papered up, and I asked if he knew what was going on there. He said he didn't know, but he would find out. He'd be right back. So he darted out of 7-Eleven and went down the street and came back a few minutes later. And don't know about that building, but the Civic League building around the corner. So the guy in there knows you. He said his kids go to school with your kids, red hair. Like, I didn't know who he was talking about. Anyway, we've got a great deal on a lease. He was about to move out, and no one knew that yet. And was able to start renovations for what would eventually become Pops with a whole lot of help from James. Brandon and I did all the renovations ourselves, so James was there every night, giving advice on carpentry and helping with anything he might have. Was largely responsible for us being able to get open on a very, very tight budget.
He's a mentor. I always talk to him. He's a good man. I hope everybody in his community or in Virginia or in the world take an example from this man here. This man is a king. He loves everybody. He don't care which race, color, or class you're from. He loves everybody.
Do you think maybe he was misrepresented a little bit in the Grandin space?
Maybe the people who are representing him, maybe he's not misrepresented for those people. And I don't know who those people are. I'd like to actually see the group of people who advocated for this and set this up. Are majority of them are what race? And I would be curious to know that.